Look, you had a great treat. So a louder good morning. I hope you're all doing great. My topic for today is improving collaboration with the help of workflows. So let's try to make sense of this topic. Clearer workflows will improve communication and teamwork and hence improve collaboration. So that's the idea. Let's pick up the 4 words that are important in this. Clear communication, clear workflows, better teams. And let's start with the first word. And before I tell you what's the first word, a quick question to all of you. Which of these 2 options is more dangerous? A wrong decision or no decision? No decision? Absolutely right. The thing is, a lot of us attribute failures, loss of profit, destruction of companies to a wrong decision. You took the wrong decision and this happened. The fact is, it is still a decision. Yes, it is destructive, but even worse is no decision, indecision. Where do I want to go? Ambiguity kills. Ambiguity destroys. So if you really want to achieve collaboration, the first thing you keep in mind is clear communication. And very more important, in today's world, the workplace is changing. I come from an academic background. I have teams. And I came across this saying where a very successful businessman was asked, he created a big empire, lots of assets. You have studied about assets and liabilities. And he was told, amongst all the assets you have created, which one would you rank as number 1? And he said, my most important assets walk out of this door every evening. He was talking about his people and his team. And that's when I realized that my most important assets, forget about walking out of the door, have never even walked inside the door. Because I have not seen them. After COVID, the world has changed. There are remote teams, offline teams, online teams, hybrid teams. So many of them I don't even see, and they are your most precious assets. If I have to get them to collaborate, the first thing I need is clear direction. Because if that's not there, these big assets, your best assets, will turn into your biggest liabilities. And that's what we call strikes, that's what we call attrition, people leaving the workplace even after putting so much money into training, clarity of thought direction. It's a very interesting story that one lone ranger going ahead and building empires, conquering frontiers, one solitude, creative genius, painting masterpieces. The truth is not this. The fact is, every solitude genius had a team behind him. Without a great team, success is very limited. So we have to be with teams. We cannot get rid of them. If you really want to make it big, you have to have that great team. That solitude, thinker, creator. Even Michelangelo, when he was painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, he had 15, 16 people working with him. Even that great master needed a team. And so does every entrepreneur. So many of them you've already heard. They will tell you, without a team, nothing is possible. Because finally, success is a team sport. It is not an individual sport. And that is why we need that clarity of communication to make sure that our teams are performing well. Every great event in history has been a team event. 2011 World Cup, when India got the World Cup home after 28 years. What's the one thing you remember about that event? The last 6 that Mahendra Dhoni shot. But that did not get the World Cup home. There was so much more behind it. And in 2011, somewhere around that time, 2012, another company which ruled the world turned almost invisible. And I'm talking about this giant called Nokia, whose phones were indestructible. 2013, it almost declared bankruptcy. 2014, Microsoft bought it. It was not because Apple entered into the industry. It was not Mahendra Dhoni's six. Both were team efforts. One made you win the World Cup, one made you lose your world market share. So teamwork is extremely important. So how do I fire up these teams? Because these teams have to work together, and that's what collaboration is all about. How do I fire up these teams? McKinsey came out with a report which said, 2023 they came out with a report and they said, if you have great workflows, the team is going to perform well. So I know my job, I know my responsibility, I know after me who, I know what exactly is required, what is my deadline, and we think that that is a great workflow. If I have a great workflow, my team is going to work, clarity of direction, and that's actually true. One of the biggest examples of excellence in workflow are the Dabbawalas of Mumbai. I hope you're familiar with them. Any idea how many dabbas are delivered every lunch day? Every day. It's about 2 lakh. Every day, 2 lakh lunch boxes are delivered flawlessly. Success rate, 99.99%. Very rarely will you get your wrong lunch box. So they have a teamwork, they have a system, they have workflows, and it works beautifully. And if I have to tell you of another great team effort, it's when we put the first man on the moon. 1969, NASA put the first man on the moon. What was the team size that went together to make this particular historic event happen? Any guesses from the class, from the audience? What would be the number of people working on that mission which put the first human being out of this planet onto the moon? 4 lakh. It was a team of 4 lakh people. And you know what? Most of them had never been in the business of making a space shuttle which would take you out of this earth. This was the first time they were doing. Many of them had no idea about aeronautics. And yet, this person went around, built a team. 5 aircrafts, 5 million pieces to be sourced from across America. What will you talk about workflows? That was the most beautiful workflows. They had systems, they had communication channels. 4 lakh people had made a promise to the President of America, John F. Kennedy, when in 1961, he said, I'm going to put a man on the moon and bring him back safely. And 1969, they had put a man on the moon and brought him back safely. So then, 1969, they made such great workflows. So then workflows is the secret to communication and collaboration and hence great team effort. That's what it seems. What went wrong in 1986 when NASA put the Challenger onto space and within 73 seconds, the 7 people on board of Challenger were burnt because within 73 seconds, it blew up. Shouldn't it be successful? They had systems, they had workflows, they had communication. What went wrong? So the thing is, successful teamwork, successful collaboration goes a little beyond workflows. It is that invisible something which makes a team successful, not just the workflow. It is a very important part of your workflow, and that is communication. You see, when that Challenger was launched in 1986, there was a small part that was malfunctioning. Every engineer knew it. And yet, they agreed for the shuttle to take off because nobody was confident enough to tell the super bosses that once again the flight, the shuttle has to be rescheduled. The takeoff has to be rescheduled. It had already been rescheduled many times. So despite knowing that there is a faulty part, they went ahead and risked lives. And it's not structures, It is your ability to tell difficult things when you are in a position which is not of power. And there is something going wrong. Do you have the confidence to go and tell your top bosses that this is wrong? If you can, that is the best workflow. If you are a boss and you can build an environment where somebody can raise their voice without fear. I raise my voice and the next day I've been laid off. That word Google called psychological safety. So it's not just the structures of the workflow. There are great companies making great structures. And then there are great companies with great structures and great disasters because nobody opened their mouth, nobody could tell the truth. So the secret to a great workflow is actually your ability to have what we called crucial, difficult conversations. Can I speak up? Can I say things? Nokia was destroyed not because of Apple, but because nobody in the team could tell the top bosses that Symbian is outdated operating system. We need smarter phones. We don't need a Symbian. And if that had happened, probably the research would have been in a different way. Probably Nokia would have survived. And just to add to that, as we discussed in the beginning, workflows we think are structures with their patterns. Today you have AI to make all those things. Within a few seconds, the AI will tell you, this is your qualification, this is your job, this is the work structure you should have. You don't even need people to make those work structures. But you need people to communicate with those machines. And to end with a very quick example, if you're familiar with one AI development called Co-Scientist that Google has just come out with. In February, a scientist came out with a research which after 10 years, the team discovered why superbugs become immune to antibiotics. And then they said, okay, let's try it with Co-Scientist, and let's see how good this AI is. This research is not available on the internet. Nobody has access to our findings. Let's challenge Co-Scientist, because finally the AI crawls through the internet and gets data. So they challenged Co-Scientist that 10 years that they took to discover why a superbug becomes immune to antibiotics was solved by Co-Scientist in 2 days. They were shocked. They wrote to Google and they said, do you think it has access to our data? Google said, no, it's nowhere on the internet. So that's the speed of analysis. That's the speed with which decisions are making. So finally, collaboration will be about communication, not just with humans, but also with machines, if you really want to be successful. Thank you so much.